This is Printed and Pressed. I'm Chris.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Will.
And today we're reviewing what book?
This is Your Brain on Birth Control.
And I forget who picked this book.
I did.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
just kidding.
You should cut to that scene from Scary Movie where they open the guy's head and they're like, "This is your brain on crack." Little guys in there.
Hey man, the author did the rounds on a bunch of podcasts. I thought it would be interesting to review her book because it sounded like it had a lot of good insight.
Well, I mean, anytime there's a widely used medicine that can affect the brain, I think it's important to be studied. And this is the first time I've seen a book that does that. So I appreciated reading it and finding out what the impacts are, the potential impacts are, I guess.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I know we're getting into this. A lot of this is just a dirty secret that no one wants to talk about. And it was a really nice way of putting it. And I thought the book was really good. So,
yeah, I mean, before you watch this podcast, I would suggest just read this book.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't see. Yeah, go ahead.
It may not necessarily change your mind and what you're doing with your personal choices, but it's going to arm you with a lot of information that is buried. And even your doctors probably don't know it, which is the most fascinating part about this.
Well, I mean, from reading a couple other books, and I'm not going to mention them on this podcast, it seems like there's a lack of some specific subjects that get covered during medical school. One of the main ones that I've seen is like nobody covers like straight up nutrition anymore. It's always like procedures, surgeries.
They've done this thing now in medical school where they specialize people so much that
they don't touch the general subjects at all.
Yeah, they don't touch the general subjects and they don't question other specialties.
Right.
So it's.
I mean, they do touch on a lot of the stuff, but I want to emphasize the touching. So they give you like the background information, but they never like lead you to like the logical conclusions. Like, oh, if I eat shit, my body's going to die.
Well, it's also to this point now where a lot of doctors, in my humble opinion, a lot of doctors are just taking whatever they're told. They're like a good resource, almost like a dictionary in their own right to find resources from other specialists and then use that information on you instead of having more of that old school holistic growth. Let's try this, see if it works because of these. Like they're not really doing the diagnostic work anymore on trying to find cures.
Well, they're also like, I mean, the entire industry is not built on how quickly can they get you out of their office because they need to see the next patient. So they don't care really like what they're giving you.
And what does this drug do? What does some pharmaceutical salesperson came by and said this is good for this scenario. So I just
he seems trustworthy.
Yeah.
Like even if they're not getting kickback on it, that's essentially how that's done.
Yeah, and once they get this consensus on something, be it a vaccine, be it a pharmaceutical drug like a statin or birth control or whatever it is, people won't really question it anymore. It just becomes part of the, hey, I'm going to prescribe this.
Well, I mean, the other half of that coin is, Andrew, once a medication of any sort hits critical mass, like the bulk of population is using it, taking it, whatever.
Yeah.
No one wants to know what the ramifications are on that because that means everybody's going to have to question it.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
That's a pretty big deal.
If you're a doctor in that situation, you might try to lead your clients to away from something, but you're not going to outright tell them don't do this because you might get blackballed.
Right. Well, yeah, because the overall industry will accuse you of malpractice because you deviate from them.
Yes, so, which I'm sure it would be hard to find some doctors that are like, no, I don't want to prescribe you birth control, and then they get sued for it.
Anecdotal evidence I have in that I'm not going to necessarily give away information, but I've heard there are some doctors that I know that have done similar things to what you just said.
It happens,
and they got in big trouble for it.
It happens, yeah.
All right, so
we can get sued over anything nowadays. Like that thing is like again, like everyone's saying, already it's so.
Or the organization you work for might threaten to fire you because you're not going toe to toe with whatever their program.
Exactly.
is.
Yeah.
So before we get started on actually covering the book, because that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
Not a general discussion of the matter.
No, we were just. This is the teaser, man.
Yes.
The big reason why I have Webster's dictionary up here is we want to define the terms as we use them so that nobody is confused about what we mean. So, like, for example, a good one to start with is what is contraception? What does that actually mean? We're going to start with that. We're going to define that term right out the gate. So contraception is the deliberate prevention of conception or impregnation as by the use of birth control pills and various other items. So there's a lot
Coitus interruptus.
Go with the straight up Latin.
I'm
going to use that so often now.
It's basically anything that prevents you becoming pregnant. So
right. Yes.
Yeah,
so
some are a little bit more damaging than others.
Yeah. And this book covers specifically birth control pills. I don't think it covers the shots. I know those exist too.
Well, technically it would, so that would cover everything from birth control pills to like it says the condoms, the IUDs. Well. It also would cover Plan B pills.
Mm-hmm. Which that really needs to be in its own category.
Yeah.
Why? It's no different.
It depends on the birth control pill. Well, I don't think that's necessarily the topic.
No, I was saying the Plan B pill though is not. It's not different.
She does touch on that. Touch on that. Because and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think essentially what it does is it initiates the killer of like, what is that lining that shed. It's like an immediate hit of the hormones that sheds the lining.
Yeah, so you can release an already fertilized egg. So I know Chris would have a bigger problem with that one versus something else, which is why I said it probably should be in its own category.
Yeah. So what's the next term?
So I will say maybe it would be a good idea. I'm not sure how you guys feel about it to throw in any biases we have. Like me personally, I would never condone or recommend this just because of my faith, but we're still going to discuss it from a science perspective. So that's where we're at with this.
My bias is that I want people to be informed to make their own decisions. I think that this is...
I agree with that, Will. I'm saying I'm still going to come at this from a science perspective.
Chris, I gave you your second. Shut up, man.
Go ahead. Sorry. I felt like you were directly demeaning me with your...
No. I'm just saying I just want people to be informed. I think from a scientific perspective, quite a few of these drugs are they're just terrible for you. So there are other options, and I think that we need to force the industry to make better options for women who want to go through this or to have this as an option for them. And I guess I know there's obviously a faith component for me, but I'm going to try not to bring that into this conversation. I'm going to focus purely on the science. I think that's what this book does. So
yeah.
Well, let me just stop you right there. Well, real quick, I just want to throw this in there. Although I may not condone this, I'm still going to discuss the science. And I would agree with Will that better options should be available for those that choose this, because as a culture, as a society, people are going to use it whether I like that or not. And I don't want half of society to be screwed up from a pill that could potentially be better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So my bias, I'm an individual who's had a lot of allergies to medicines that people say are just perfectly fine for everybody, antibiotic wise. So I have a biased perspective that if you don't need medicine or a pill, you just don't take it because it has larger impacts than...
I can't read that.
Yeah, Chris, no one can read that. So my bias is literally that you don't take unnecessary medications because they have larger impacts on your body that you probably don't see. And especially when there's an alternative that isn't a drug, it's probably better in my humble opinion. That's my bias.
I also like to question the common narrative. I think that I don't rebel against the man or anything like that. But anytime there's something that's really in the zeitgeist and everyone accepts it, I like to ask why. Why do people accept this?
And I have to add on to that too. I do have a bias to where when someone says, "Oh, it's perfectly safe," or it's
nothing is.
Yeah, when people treat it as a one size fits all type of thing, like there's no harmful side effect because I haven't recognized one in myself. It's like it doesn't fit everyone. Just like, okay, for example, penicillin. It's one of the most miraculous antibiotics on the planet and was super helpful to humans getting to where we are.
Mm-hmm.
I am allergic to it. Okay. So something as simple as that
is not
safe for everybody.
I mean, as we're going to get into this book, it alters your brain. So there's going to be things like, oh, you may not recognize something's up, but it could very well be very much affecting you, and only the people around you would know.
Well, plus your development.
Yes.
So we'll get into that further when we go through the book, but just setting up our own positions and biases out the gate.
Going into this book, I was not nearly as against a lot of these contraceptive methods as I am now, simply because of they're just terrible for you.
Well, I'll have to say I was in the same boat, just because I have family members who have used it specifically because of other benefits, as far as like regulating flow and everything like that.
Because I had a girlfriend that had some kind of medical condition, so she took birth control for something.
So I have family members who have used it because otherwise it could be pretty bad. But so there are benefits. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say there are no benefits. There clearly are.
Yeah, and as the author outlines, sorry, go on. I don't know why.
I was just saying, but there are a lot of risks that you need to counterbalance with that.
Right? There's this thing called informed consent that's supposed to be
and which we've moved way past in our society.
And a lot of times a doctor will see one of the potential benefits for taking this and just prescribe it based on that. So like clearing up acne is one of the reasons that they prescribe this. It's pretty nuts.
Well, they found
here's how I was thinking.
It to young girls. That's the problem with the acne and stuff like that. It's been used as an excuse to give it to girls in their teens.
So I think that since this isn't like a narrative driven book, I'm trying to think of what the best way to cover this would be. And in my mind, maybe we go by part. And like, the first
parts. Let's discuss it based by part, because the parts were, what were they again?
The first one is called You Are Biology, which is probably going to get us kicked off YouTube. The second part was This Is Your Brain on Drugs. And then the third part was about the big picture, law of unintended consequences. Why didn't I know this?
Yeah, and I don't think we need to be that controversial in the first section, first part, I should say.
No, I mean, anytime you say You Are Biology, that's like YouTube immediately is like, nope.
Yeah. I mean, I think it basically sums up is that your body is not a machine. There are things that are happening. You don't have control over all those things.
Well, you are a machine, though. You're a biological machine.
Okay, if you want to go that way, I was trying to say that. I guess maybe saying it is a machine might be a better way of putting it.
You're a biological machine.
I guess can I lay this out in a way that I think makes the most sense?
Sure.
Okay.
The difference between adding oil to a car and adding something to a person is in a car, you can expect, unless there's a serious problem, the oil is only going to go where it's meant to go. When it comes to a person, biological barriers are not nearly as strong as, say, a metallic barrier in a car. And therefore, not usually. Let me just put it that way. Not usually. Like, for example, the blood-brain barrier gets crossed by lots of medication, especially hormones. And so the far-reaching consequences are a lot greater in a person than a car by applying something to it.
Let's put it this way. In your body, right, especially with hormones, for example, anything that's in your blood system, anything that can seep into your blood system, especially when it's coming from your stomach, it's already crossing the barrier of your stomach into your blood barrier. That means it can seep into other aspects of your body too. And your brain will take whatever is in your blood and it will impact it. That's why people are concerned about all sorts of things like metals that get into your blood, mercury or aluminum or whatever it might be, right? All of that can seep into your brain. Sorry for the misspeak there, but that's your body is made to be able to transfer nutrients and molecules.
Right. And because every system in the body is linked or connected in some way, shape, or form, when you apply something somewhere, which we'll get to later, there's far-reaching consequences.
And also, if you're regulating something as important as sex hormones, you have to understand, what is the sex hormones doing to your body normally? Why are they there? And if you're going into this, thank you, Phantom. If you're going into this without asking those questions, then again, it leads to those far-reaching consequences that you're not thinking about.
Yeah, and the biggest point from this first part that she makes is women have a well-designed hormonal pattern aimed at conception and implantation. And that is dictated by estrogen and progesterone, right? So that
each of them has a different part of the cycle.
Yeah, it's basically a W. One of them peaks, like it's like one estrogen's coming up on one part of the cycle, and then
more like a sine wave.
Well, yeah, sine wave, I guess. I'm just saying it's like you have two spikes.
Yes.
Sure.
And
golden arches at McDonald's. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, basically, man. Mm-hmm. That's why it's happening.
Oh yeah, no, that is technically true. It's just that one spike is one hormone, the other spike is the other hormone.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a
yeah,
I just
that makes
saying
sense.
It's like a W because of that.
You mean an M?
An M, yeah. Whatever way. No, it doesn't matter.
W.
Upside down. It's an M, but no, they do that, and estrogen, your whole mentality is about getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And then when you're in the progesterone phase, it's all about staying pregnant.
Yeah, nesting.
Nesting, yeah. So you have two very different mindsets based on that alone, which is a fascinating read in this book when you look at what those
Yeah, the human body is fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I found interesting when she's talking about like biology in this section is when she talks about the high value sex cells of the woman versus the low value because a woman only produces one per cycle.
It's
versus a man
for
can
a
produce
woman.
them.
Yeah, it's costly for a woman to make the wrong mistake.
Yes.
With
Very
reproductive
costly.
decisions, whereas for a man, it's not costly at all to make the wrong. It's actually
So that would affect
beneficial.
the mindset, right?
Yeah. But also, you don't know when she would be ready, so you got to be on it.
Mhm.
So even if you are a committed partner, you have to be on her cycle. So, like evolutionary speaking, it would make sense not just to spread your seed everywhere, but always be ready for whenever she's ready.
Mm-hmm. And it's like her entire incentive structure too when she's on that estrogen phase is to be more attractive. That's like everything about her is more attractive to men. It might not be like, oh, she's lit up a signal flare over here that she's fertile, but everything about her is like
It's that movie in the old like the 90s or it's a scene in the 90s movies where the attractive girl just takes off her glasses and suddenly everyone recognizes how attractive she is. This is what's happening during that time.
Andrew is taking care of some things in the back of his library over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to remove my cat from the room because she was being disruptive. So
as far as like the biology thing, like is there anything that stuck out to you in this section that you didn't know going into this book and you're like, wow, that was pretty interesting to read?
I honestly don't remember if it was this section or not, but the women that are on, she always refers to as the pill. If they're on the pill, they are more attractive to like feminized men, for lack of a better way of putting that.
Yeah, the estrogen phase, you're attracted to more masculine features, whereas when you're on the progesterone phase, you're attractive to safer people.
Yeah, people aren't going to attack you because you're supposed to already be pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I looked at it another way. Like, actually, they've done a study, and I don't remember if this had anything to do with the book or maybe it was an interview that she was in. But essentially, like the facial hair of a person's like long-term partner, their husband, the women are attracted to them either shaving or leaving their beard, depending on where they're at in the cycle. Like, imagine trying to keep up with that, like consistently grooming whatever way that they want to see you. That's kind of crazy to think about. Like, just something as simple as facial hair, the attractiveness can change over the course of a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go turn off my dehumidifier so you guys jump in with whatever.
Yeah, I mean, okay. What did you think of that? Lack of a better word, we're farther enough in this. The natural cuckold incentive to existing for women to get genes that they think are better genes versus whatever provider they chose that they.
I mean, that's how basically every animal works. So, I mean, a great example of this is the cuttlefish. Do you guys know what I mean? All right. So the cuttlefish is usually this one big brute who defends the cave and he's, attacking the males are trying to come and fertilize the eggs. And then there's a sneaky male that pretends to be a female. He's usually smaller.
Effer, okay? That's
yeah,
what
he tries to be feminine. Looks like he'll have the same color patterns because they have like those.
Talking about the three
genders
she talks about in the book.
She talks about the fish.
Well, I'm just I'm talking. Oh, she talked about the fish too.
Yeah, she did.
The cuttlefish.
About that. It's something like it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same thing. It's two types of males. It depends on.
I guess my point of this is that literally every animal species has multiple mating strategies. Mm-hmm. So the fact that humans are no different does not surprise me.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's one of those things then where it's like, I don't know. I feel like there is a proper stigma to the single mothers out there. Just a little bit. Based on especially nowadays, there should be more because it's kind of a choice. But
yeah, but also the thing is, if you think about a human society back in the day, it would be in a whole group. There's usually the big Brutus males that go out and would have probably chosen some females, and there's going to be the other ones that stay, the lesser males that stay behind, and they still want to get some. And for whatever reason, those genes continue to propagate, and it's because they're there. Do you remember going over the case study with the albino Native Americans? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's this group of albino.
I don't
no, I don't think it was in this book. It's just, again, we're talking about now I'm talking. So there's this group. I think it's in Arizona, and there's there's this the researchers went there, and there's all these albino children. It's what the hell? Why is this gene persisting in this population? Is terrible for them. There's all the sunshine. They're gonna die, and it ends up there's this one guy who had the albino, he was albino.
Yeah.
And because he couldn't go out and hunt because he would die, he stayed with the women, and then he wooed them.
Oh, that's funny.
Sneaky little bastard. But yeah.
The another thing that was really interesting is just how your hormones will how they make the woman sound, smell sexier when she is in high fertility. But the implications of that when it came to strippers. So her study, she had this study she references in this about strippers. So if you're a stripper, don't go on the pill. Just don't, because you will make the bare minimum money no matter what you do if you're on the pill. Whereas if you're off the pill, you make way more money. Way more money. I
didn't realize that we were in the advice giving stage here.
Hey, no, but this is a legit advice.
Chris. Andrew's gonna open a new strip joint, and he's there's gonna be a stipulation.
Hey, if I owned a strip club, none of the strippers there would be allowed to be on the pill, because we want to make as much money as possible, and that's the secret right there, according to this study.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny to think that the hormones don't not only affect somebody internally, but externally they can impact other people around them. Isn't that wild?
I mean, that's what pheromones are.
Because it's impacting yourself. Well,
it clears up your skin. It makes you smell different. So your body's picking up on that.
That's what I'm saying. Think about how wild that is. And now you're not only affecting yourself, but you're affecting everybody else.
Well, it also, based on the woman's cycle, they had the study in there where she references how men respond to smelling to the scent of that woman. And when she's in the progesterone phase, their testosterone goes down.
Yep.
So, guys, if you're with a woman who's on the pill, she's killing your T, man. She's part of the reason you got low T.
But then all you got to do is go look at some weapons and
just tell your wife, hey, if your wife is on the pill, tell her that you need to buy at least 10 guns.
I just have them hanging up in every single room. I'm good to go, man. I just bring it into work with me. It's good.
Oh God,
no problem.
You have to compensate.
It's like it's like for Christmas this year, Will's wife comes in and gives him a year-long membership to the weapons museum. What are you trying to say, babe? My T is too low for you?
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's okay. And if it's really a struggle with your wife, you got to buy her one of those old school little derringers that she can strap on. And then every time It's like the old school Western hooker.
I have one of those.
You gotta buy your wife one
like
of those.
purse guns, like the ones that you put in your hand, you can't actually see it. So small.
Or the type that's just strapped to the thigh.
Yeah.
So
they're like,
no matter when you see her,
hey guys, I gotta sign off. I'm starting to feel something.
Will's like out to dinner with his wife. He's like, I need to see it. She's like, really? Here?
Again?
I need to see it. The waiter's like walking past, like, what in the world? Pulls out the
It's like a freaking bazooka because I really need a lot.
It's like, hey dear, I'm feeling a little low T right now. Can I see the gun real quick?
That was wild to me to find out that like just seeing some kind of a weapon can make a man's testosterone levels rise.
Well, this tells you like what our breeding has done to us over like thousands of generations, man.
Yeah.
Well, then there's
can we get to the part 2 now instead of continuing on with this?
I can't remember if this is in part 2 or not. Maybe
it doesn't matter. We're gonna go off script anyways.
Fine.
Yep.
What was part 2?
This is your brain on drugs. That's when they start talking about how the pill works. We're already kind of there.
Yeah, I mean, the pill?
I want to read the chapter heading so we didn't do it on the first one.
All right, yeah, get it.
So the first part, the part we just covered, biology. The chapter's headings are 1, what is a woman, which somebody already pointed out. 2, you are your hormones, and then 3 is like you and the time of fertility, which we already kind of covered all those. Part 2 is this is your brain on drugs. So chapter 4 is hormones on replay. So it's talking about how the pill works and what's in it. 5 is called sexy is in the eye of the pill taker, which we kind of already talked about. Like you get the weakening of masculine traits in the cycle, whatever. 6 is sex on drugs. That's an interesting conversation. 7, the curious case of the missing cortisol, which is the stress release we need to get into for sure.
That's
and then 8 is what the funk, which is your mood on drugs.
Yeah.
So what do we want to hit first? We've already kind of hit some of these headlines.
Well, I think there's one big thing we need to hit before we really get into part 2.
Sure.
And that is the pill progesterone is made from testosterone.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And that means
but it's inactivated testosterone.
Well, it's inactivated testosterone though. That
so it doesn't bind with your cells.
No, it does bind to testosterone receptors still.
Some of them did, not all of them.
Yeah, it is not like you're giving yourself anabolic steroids, but it will still bind with testosterone.
I better stop taking those pills then.
So it does have some masculizing effects. So certain pills will cause increased weight gain, body hair growth, acne. Some will cause acne.
If you start it early. So if you're like a small child getting prescribed this stuff.
And it will also probably impact your brain development if you are in that phase, because it is binding with testosterone. So receptors, I should say, which all it needs to do is bind with the receptor for the cell to act as though it received testosterone. That's the key to remember here. So
yes. Okay. Good point.
And it differs based on what type of pill it is, like what generation of pill. So the fourth gen doesn't come from testosterone, and it is an anti-masculizing but a libido killer. So
one of the things I found interesting about the generation of pills as they discussed it is that all of them are in use currently. It's not like the iPhone where as soon as they release the next one, they stop releasing the old ones. No, they keep all these in circulation unless there's like a serious problem with one of them. And so I guess different women react to different of these pills in different ways. And so like if one of them doesn't work for you, they try another one. It's a huge like experimental process for some of these women to determine which one's going to work for their lifestyle, their how it reacts to their body, that all that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and she has anecdotal statements, testimonies, I guess, in here from people. And one of her friends had a psychotic break on the same, I think it was the same pill she uses.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, it was something like that.
So one of her friends had a straight up psychotic break because that pill doesn't work for her or how it works for the other woman. Yep. And it's just like, that's crazy when you think about it, that you could have a psychotic break on one of these things.
Well, do you want to talk about how they first developed some of these pills on Puerto Rican women?
Sure.
That's not part of the book, is it?
No.
Oh, it isn't?
I
don't remember.
I'm getting really confused on this.
You're confused because you've read into this before.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway,
add the context. Will it's fine.
Before that, like the pill was actually like FDA approved and became like a widespread thing. That obviously they had to develop it, and the way they developed it, the first one is they actually prescribed it to Puerto Rican women. and they didn't know what dosage to give them, so they gave them a shitload of it, and it sterilized an entire generation.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yes. So this is a well-known thing. This is why like minorities, when they say like we don't want to take vaccines and stuff, there's actually reasons behind this, like historical reasons, and that's
people
one of them.
get tested on all the time.
Yes. And the thing is, like, there's also some accounts where the scientists / doctors may have known that was going to be the outcome for this particular trial, and they did it anyway because they were worried about Puerto Rico getting too populous.
Oh my goodness.
There's a lot of people out there that when it comes to eugenics have really abused prescription drugs.
Yeah. Anyway, so they approved only a slightly lesser dose of that for the first generation of pills in U.S. women, and it fucked them up. It was way higher than we have now, and it caused of course you can't make the direct link because a lot of these papers are either buried or the research isn't funded properly. But links to cancer.
Intentionally so.
Yeah, very much intentionally so. So links to cancer, links to literally can't get pregnant anymore because it's fried their ovaries, fried their uteruses, and and also their brains. So that there's been a lot also like psychotic breaks, like unexplained mental illnesses that have been caused by this. Yeah, it's not good.
We'll get into it later because it's definitely something that I took notes down on though. But you said cancer, increased risks of cancer, and later when we talk about the other the further unintended consequences thing, I think she lays out the case very she lays out the case very strongly that it could cause it. Like, she's not talking about cancer in that instance, and I'm a little disappointed that she doesn't bring it up as a huge risk.
Yeah. So I know, like, my sister. So obviously my sister is my one generation, but she is Gen X or whatever. Whatever pills that they're using, like almost all of her friends have had birth issues, and they also a lot of them developed ovarian cysts, which is another potential side effect of some of these earlier pills. I don't know if there's as much of a problem now, but and they're not really testing. They don't have a way of testing it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen when you introduce something that can affect the whole body.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't remember if she goes over this in this book, or it's just in her talks on the book, but she brings up that there hasn't been a lot of tests on some of these pills because in order to test this, you have to have a placebo. So you have to have women willing to go into a study knowing that there's a chance of them getting pregnant when they're hoping to be, infertile.
Oh yeah, because they would have to take a sugar pill.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's kind of fair enough.
So when we get into this phase, part 2 of it, it's really like there's a big debate in it, I guess, about the impact on relationships that the pill has, because pill taking women don't prioritize looks, like what they're attracted to or anything. The masculinity aspect too, and there might be genetic quality identification issues for women. Yes. So things like, oh, this person's immune system is a good match for my immune system because it's different, is something that gets blunted by the pill, which will then be the cause of why, I can't stand the smell of my partner later on, all types of things like that. Like, you're a totally different person to her potentially when she's on the pill versus off of it.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you can't made a choice to take the pill, but when she's off of it, you can't get mad at her for not liking your scent, not liking you really, because her body is telling her, like, that is a terrible partner for you. Yeah. Something wrong is going to go with your kid, or wrong is going to happen to your kids.
And it could be causing, harder to conceive with your partner because you didn't pick someone that was a good fit, that like genetically. So there's all sorts of things that your brain subconsciously picks up on during that phase.
So here's a breakdown based on, I think, let's see here. There's a survey done on what a woman on and off the pill prefers in a relationship or a partner. And here's the actual chart. So who is more satisfied with their partner based on financial provisioning and intelligence is heavily favored towards women on the pill. So women on the pill are more likely to favor the partner's intelligence and financial provisioning, so like how they handle their money and what level of intelligence they have. Now, as far as the next item, sexual arousal, adventurousness, proceptivity, attraction, partner support, and partner's physique, all
everything that gets her excited realistically about you as a person.
Off the pill. That was heavily favored for women off the pill. Okay. And then towards the bottom of the sheet here, it's equivalent with when it comes to how satisfied you are with your partner during the activities, your partner's loyalty, your partner's ambition, partner rejection, compliant sex. I don't know what that even means. And partner's facial attractiveness. Those are all equivalent on and off the pill per the survey. So it's clear, though, that women prefer different things on and off the pill. Now, because of that, if a potential partner were to be met, only like if your relationship has only subsisted with your partner being on the pill, so say you're a man, you're dating somebody,
very dangerous for you.
Yeah,
you get married and then decide you want to have kids, so she goes off the pill. There's a chance she wakes up.
It's more dangerous beyond that, though, Chris. It's more dangerous.
I'm giving the anecdotal story in the book, though.
No, but it was more dangerous beyond that because the women have to go off the pill usually at like 35.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, so because of that, it's not like she can just keep taking the pill if she realizes that that's been an issue and wants to fix it. There's like a legitimate, like, hey, you should stop taking it at this age. Now you're 35 or however old you are when she's 35, and your relationship is different for the rest of your lives together. That's pretty big impact beyond, she just thinks it's because she might not notice it when you're trying to have kids together. It might just be like, it's a blip. I'm stressed about like the conceiving and all of that shit. But once you hit the age that you get off the pill, that right there is forever.
1 second, I'm looking something up.
Yeah. One other thing too that I don't want to skip over. She talks about how important estrogen is for the brain in women. Like it's kind of like a miracle grow for the brain, I think was her actual quote, for how it dramatically increases the neural pathways.
Yeah, because it showed like the nerve endings. There's so many more nerve endings activated.
Which, here's the question. Is an estrogen pill going to be the new
well, I guess if you want it to be highly fertile all the time, maybe.
No, I'm just saying, like, is that going to be the new Adderall for women going into exam periods?
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's estrogen in some of those concentration pills.
I don't know, man. It would be interesting to see, though. I think that would be. Yeah. I think that's an under-thought of performance-enhancing drug for
don't put that
college.
Out there.
Huh?
Don't put that out there.
Why?
Circling back to when you get off the pill and like
it's a joke. Partner, I'm not prescribing.
When your partner,
you're not a doctor, anyways.
I'm trying to say something. When circling back to the pill, once you get off the pill, it makes your partner look completely different to you, smell differently, and it leads to a lot of rocky marriages. The pill came out in 1960 officially. Divorces spiked 10 years later. So that would actually line up really well to that would lead to some of it. Obviously, it's not all of it. But I'm sure that's a factor that no one really talks about.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's an increase from it. I mean, just from the fact that it changes what a woman is attracted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's another event. There was the no-fault divorce laws that went into effect sometime in that same time frame.
There's a lot. It was a perfect storm.
There's a lot of things that went on. I was just saying
there was a lot of events that led to that.
I mean, think about it this way too. I mean, it makes it where it's you're less likely to have kids sooner too. So your entire plan for the future is a lot less settled early.
And also once you get older, I feel like a lot of people are depressed because they're missing something in their lives, not realizing it's their biology telling them like, hey, you guys fucked up. You didn't have a kid yet.
Right. Well, what where was that?
Well, yeah, because the biology is driven to want to spread your genes.
Yeah, I mean, even if it doesn't align with like your plan or career path and stuff, your biology still wants that. So no matter what you take, that's what your body wants to do.
Your body is built to do some things, and that's one of them, right?
It's literally the only thing your body's supposed to do.
No, but that reminds me.
Survive long enough to get on.
That reminds me of one of her stories. There was, there was a story of a person she called Sophie on like page 172, I believe. And this woman was talking about how she has to be on the pill because she never, like, she says how she never understood the, how women got so hormonal and emotional on their period because she was always on the pill, right?
Oh, I see.
And then she quit the pill for a while, and she started to get super emotional, and like, I guess baby fever was like, she was upset that she didn't have a baby and all sorts of stuff like that.
That's a
and
thing.
This woman is talking about how, oh, thank God I have the pill and I could go back on the pill because then I could focus on work again and my success. And it's just like, that's the saddest anecdotal story I heard in this entire book, because this woman, this was used as like a positive story about the pill being good. And it's just like, no, this woman it's like an antidepressant.
Yes, it is.
Like, this pill is literally an antidepressant for this woman who, because of her biology, whatever her ancestors' hormones are, they really want to have kids. And she's drugging herself.
And what's funny is that her ancestors were very successful until her. So like, she's purposely killing a successful gene pool.
Yeah. And it's just like, she really wants to have kids. And she is in such denial about that because of some narrative about how she needs to be successful at work, right? Climb up the corporate ladder, whatever it is. And she's like, that is literally the saddest anecdote in there. And it's used as a positive anecdote for what good the pill can do. So it's like,
she uses that during her talks too, that, you know, the positive of the pill is like choosing what you do with your career and stuff. And I have the same thing, because they're saying like, you know, women are obviously like 50% of the workforce now. The 50% of all law graduates are way more than that. I think it's 80% in biology degrees and things like that. And it's like, yes, that's wonderful that has increased and people are pursuing what they want to do. But at the end of the day, is that actually a positive? You're just assuming that that's a positive. And, you know, as a scientist, like, it's just data. You don't know if that's actually a net positive that has increased. It just has increased.
The real question is, okay, maybe we should save this for later when we go into the larger implications. But I was just going to say there's a lot. So yeah, let's table that for now, just because there's a lot.
I will say one more to the biology part, something that happens to your body. I don't know if this is in this because I read it in a separate paper. So I can't remember if it was covered here as well. But
I was about to jump to some of these. So start with yours.
Yeah. So there is a side effect with several of these more common birth control methods that it actually hardens the, I'm going to use a scientific term, it hardens the clitoris, and it makes it so it no longer has as much sensitivity.
I've also heard that it can shrink it.
It also shrinks it, yes. So it's both happens. It shrinks it and also hardens it. And because of that, like, sex doesn't feel very good, so you end up becoming really dissatisfied with your partner, and then it leads to multiple partners, all of which cannot satisfy you. So you're like seeking these thrill adventures, and there's a lot going into this, but I don't know if it's reversible even.
No, it's and I think because most of that happens when you're at least when it comes to the shrinking part, I think that's mostly for women who took it during puberty,
adolescence.
Yeah. So I was going to say too that there's a lot of things that this does. So it causes elevated, what is the SHBG? I guess basically inactivates the testosterone binding. Is that what that one was? I forget. But even after you go off of the pill, it can still that elevated SHBG binding or whatever it is. What page was that on? We don't have it. Can you search that up on here, Chris, if they have that?
I don't have a way to search it up.
God damn it. All right.
Anyways,
I'm looking. I'll look it up real quick. But basically, what it does, it can kill your sex drive going forward after you're off the pill, and it can even cause a lack of lubrication.
Yes,
that's exactly what I was going to get into. Is like,
going forward.
Isn't it wild that something that is meant to allow women to have the freedom. Okay, so the ability to have as much relations as they want, and it kills their sex drive entirely.
So basically,
ironic.
SHBG is the sex hormone binding globulin. Yeah, which is a sex hormone transport protein, and basically it it screws up your testosterone receptors, the binding and activity on that and stuff. And that leads to a lack of sex drive because testosterone is a key player in the sex drive. And then obviously downstream of that is the painful sex. So it also impairs your oxytocin receptors / response, which if you go on the pill too soon, you're not going to, bond as well with your partner or future children if you go on the pill right away. Afterwards, do we want to get into the stress response?
That's exactly where I'm at right now, and I was hoping we'd get to that next.
All right, so it impairs the stress response of cortisol, and that's on page 158 that it really goes into it. So basically, the pill creates a state of chronic stress response in your body.
Which is never good.
And the way your body survives is by just turning off its response to stress.
Yeah, because if you're constantly getting hit with cortisol, your body can only do that for so long before
you have like a heart attack.
You're like fatigued and heart attack, all that fun stuff. So your body just shuts off the cortisol after a while if you've been high anxiety too long.
Yeah.
And then you get into a very indifferent response to almost everything.
You do. It destroys so they did the studies where they would do like, we'll put you in a stressful situation to see how your memory how you remember what happened, the events of the story.
A little bit of stress is actually good for you.
Lot of stress, because that's how you remember things, Chris.
Yeah.
Like stress is also excitement. It's not just negative stress. It's something new happened, something that's memorable happened, kind of thing that causes stress. So, because it elevates your heart rate.
Yeah, it's like when we were Ooga Boogas and we struck some fire and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that elevates your heart rate is considered stress, right?
Yes.
And they did this to try to test women on the pill's memory versus non-women on the pill. I mean, not non-women, women not on the pill. And they found that when they had women read a short story and then they gave another story with like a stressful thing that happened, women not on the pill could remember it and recall it much better for the stress related one than women who were actually on the pill. They didn't have any difference in how they remembered the story. No difference in recall whatsoever. And I have to say that this right here was the first finding where I then had a major problem with one of her takes. And her take was, if you're in an abusive relationship, it's a good thing for you to be on the pill because the last thing you want is an unwanted pregnancy in that relationship.
No, you leave the relationship.
Yeah, no, but here's the problem. If you're on the pill, you're not going to be able to respond properly to remembering all the bad things that person does to you. You're going to be so much easier to gaslight when you're on the pill because your memory is fried.
Psychologically, you're kind of in a blah, don't care attitude.
Yeah, you're doped up on something that's going to prevent you from recognizing.
Yes, you're actually helping him out.
Yeah, you're actually helping the abuser by telling these women to stay on the pill. Whereas if they were to get off the pill, there's an incentive actually to leave that relationship.
Yes.
This is great. We have a comment.
Instead of using stress, we actually can use a scientific word, arousal, which doesn't just mean sex. But that is the response. It's the arousal response.
Mm-hmm.
The comment was, "I want to stress you out, babe." New pickup line.
Well, you should just say, "I want to arouse you," because that could mean all kinds of things.
But isn't that crazy though? That she's got two very different perspectives of something that should conflict.
Yeah,
and
I think she was just trying to keep all avenues open when discussing, because some people would think it's a benefit and some people wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm just.
But
saying,
the stress response all across the board is bad.
I'm saying though, I'm a little disappointed that she doesn't actually.
I'm super disappointed, but I can tell, especially when you listen to her talks on this subject, that she was clearly getting blackballed by her colleagues, and people are giving a lot of shit for this. So she really hugs that middle line in some things, simply so this stuff doesn't get buried.
But I'm a little disappointed that the risk of that.
Yes.
The risk of that is like, okay, you could frame it where, oh, there's this one gym. Okay, let's go with the gymnast, physical therapist from Michigan State as an example.
Oh God,
who was molesting girls, right?
Mm-hmm. Was it Nasser or whatever?
Yeah. Let's look at that. Now, if your mom was on the pill, right, and she got weird vibes from this guy, that's not sticking in her memory. After a couple events. Like, think of how much harder it is to catch an abuser of your own child if you get bad vibes, but it's not sticking in your memory to build up a catalog, right? So I'm just saying that the stress response thing is pretty big.
Oh no, the stress response thing is huge. The thing is like, it doesn't prevent you from feeling stressed. It just blocks your body's ability to handle stress. Right? That was what she said. So that's kind of sad when you think about it. Like, you're willing to take let your body be unable to handle stress in order to prevent this one function of your body from happening.
Mm-hmm. What about the risks of depression?
Yeah, that basically you're going to be considerably more depressed. I think she even quoted like 100% increase.
It was 180%.
180%
for some of the hormonal non-birth control methods.
If even one
not birth control pill methods, I should say. Like
if even one person were to get depressed and for YouTube purposes were to click the delete button on life, like, I think that's worth a study right there. If even one person was taking this,
Chris, they don't care about that. I mean, how many drugs do they prescribe now? I mean, we're just getting over the opioid epidemic.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, in my mind, that would be worth a study, even if one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, of course, but like, the more important aspect of that though was how much worse it is for teenage girls. It was significantly greater.
Throughout most of history, women are not known to take that, perform that behavior, like to press the delete button on life. It's usually men that do that.
But there's been like a ridiculous 60% increase in the last 5 years or something like that.
For women or for men?
Men are way higher.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I thought men were.
Yeah, men is way higher than that.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
It's crazy though when you compare women who started it in their teenage years versus women in their late 20s and stuff.
We can just get in the mail now. You just get, without insurance, you can just have it mailed to your house. I won't tell you how I know this because unfortunately someone I know did this, but you can just get it mailed. And it comes in like a cute little package and looks like stickers.
Oh my goodness. Do we want to get into the big picture so we don't run out of time before Will's wants to call it quits? So the big picture, one thing she doesn't discuss that I wish she did, just real quick, was the fact that estrogen has now a prevalent hormone in water. They find it in lots of studies that are willing to do the studies, and nobody's talking about what that does to the wide population of people. Or progesterone too.
It completely f's up your sperm count. I mean, those studies exist where the sperm count has gone down by like 80% or something.
Get an osmosis water filter, folks.
Does osmosis clean out more? Oh,
yes, it does. That's why I purchased one.
Yeah, and that's why Andrew's suddenly jacked in his.
He
has like a third pant leg now.
He's injecting testosterone into his water.
That and all the guns he has hung up.
That's what you guys aren't seeing behind all these books. It's a secret bookshelf.
Inside of every book, every third book is actually a gun.
He just sleeps inside of a gun safe.
I still can't believe that on its own increases people's testosterone levels. Like that's wild.
Great, man. It's great.
Okay, so the wide impacts to society. I mean, one, the divorce rate, that's obviously a potential impact. It's not like it's correlation, but not necessarily causation. Not the only causation. Another thing that she discusses is, what was another thing?
Well, depression should be in there.
Depression was in there. What about this is the first time in U.S. history where unmarried women outnumber married women. It's a pretty big impact.
Well, and the reason why that's a big deal is across the board, the bulk of women are at an appropriate age for marriage compared with the women that are below an age that's considered appropriate for marriage. There's always going to be more women that are in the age range of, say, 20 to 80 than there are in the age range of 0 to 20. It's just always going to be that way, right? So when you have more than half of women not married, well, that means that there's a significant portion of the crowd old enough for marriage that are not married.
And I can't remember where this study is, but there is a study out there. It wasn't in this book, where a crazy amount of women who are who are older now and childless are not willfully childless. Like that was not their plan. Yeah. It's just what happened given life circumstances, and the pill has 100% just like based on priorities and stuff like how this is shown, how it suppresses the desire to even have kids.
Hey, we have a comment on Rumble. I just want to throw it in there. It's funny. It says the less effing, the less pregnancy, the less population.
Yeah.
Basically, that's basically what the pill has done.
Yeah, and I mean, and the thing is, I know at least some proponents of the pill that was the goal. So I know that they prescribe these pills specifically to like African nations and to Indian areas, so that women don't have kids anymore. There's more going.
It's eugenics.
There's more going into that because a lot of those women get raped all the time. So they're preventing pregnancies from that, but at the same time, they're curbing these populations and they're trying to keep, India and parts of Africa from continuing to grow. And
there was a concern about population expansion based on Malthusian ideas. And because of that, they thought that the most expanding populations on Earth needed to be slowed. That was the idea. That's the process that they believed. And they thought that women who could be on the pill would willingly choose to have less children because that's what they would want. That was their thought process. So like they think they're doing a good thing to help these people to have less children if that's what they want. But in reality, the growth rate can greatly affect the ability for culture to expand and increase in developments, technology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
See, the thing that I always hear from a lot of people is that they wish they had more kids.
That's usually what I hear from people at work.
And I can't help but think that, especially with the demographic right now of where everybody is that says that was influenced 100% by the pill. Because the pill does make a woman not really want to have it suppresses that whole hormonal shift that causes them to want to have babies, right? So while they're planning to have kids, they're thinking logically about money and all these things. They're not thinking about the life happiness aspects of how many kids do I actually want in my family. And that's a huge problem. So it's like women aren't choosing to not have as many kids because they don't want as many kids. They're literally choosing it because they're being influenced by their hormones that the pill is giving them. So you're kind of changing women's desires instead of providing a way to achieve their desires.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're also tanking our population right now. So it's not just this, but being talking about this.
Yeah.
And honestly, because our population is tanking, we're going to have to either have programs that have forced reproduction, or we're going to have to start annexing other countries. Otherwise, our population is going to crash. And the people are already talking about this.
Okay, there's countries like South Korea. I think there's like 4 grandchildren per every 100 grandparents right now in
That's
the country.
crazy. Are you serious?
Yeah, man. No, like South Korea, China, Japan are all on like a steep cliff right now. Those countries are all going to lose like 40% of their population over
which
the
is
next
why
decade.
they're getting anxious and just going to try expanding their borders.
Yeah, that like right now the issue for the CCP is literally they will never have as big of an army as they have right now, and they have, because of all of their birth control methods, they have created a massive imbalance of unmarriable men. Like there's not enough women to marry, so they're
because when they did
the
their one child
policy
thing, and most people wanted to have boys because they could put them to work at an earlier age and expect that they would continue to
you
work
also
and make
keep
money.
the family name and stuff like there's the whole
There's a lot of
Asian
reasons why they
honor
wanted to
culture.
have. Yeah.
So basically, they've created this perfect storm where they need to find a way to get rid of these young men.
Mm-hmm.
There's only
we have another comment from American Gorilla on Rumble. He said, or I'm assuming it's a he, or let a bunch of people walk across our border? ?
Yes, that is definitely part of the plan.
Except that has a terrible gender balance too. So
it does. I mean, they're not thinking this through very well, but they definitely. And also the thing is, I'm not going to get into this because there's like incentive to rape and stuff when you start expanding borders. So
when you start getting into the conquest and the old methods, the old ways of humanity.
The old ways, yes.
But there was also the conversation. So it's like page 201, I think, if anyone wants to go there. She starts claiming that we owe countless achievements to the pill, allowing brilliant women to work, but technology peaked in. But my comment is this: technology technically peaked in like the 1970s, around the time of the pill. So I do question this claim.
Technology peaked hold on. Here's the other thing.
Invention.
No. Discovery. I want to throw something out here real quick. This is something that bothered me about this book.
Okay.
This book talks about how the pill has allowed women to succeed far past what they normally would. And I'm like, you know what? This book has never discussed abstinence not even for a second. Because if you really want to succeed, you don't want to be tied down, that is always an option. I just want to say that. Like, abstinence is always a possibility.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not easy.
The false assumption of this book is that you need to be out there having sex.
Well, that's how you climb the ladder. That's what she's implying.
I disagree. Apparently, I don't think she's implying that.
The pill does not inherently create the scenario where you're able to just go.
She's also lumping that in with a bunch of other things that happen all at the same time. So, there's so many great things that happened in that period of time. This thing is literally poisoning people.
Society peaked as far as discovery of.
Are you talking
technology.
That because we're just iterative now instead of explorative?
Yeah, no, like all of the things that we discovered peaked in the 1970s. Everything has been downstream from there. Like nothing new really since then. It's crazy how much stuff was actually discovered prior to the 1970s. Huh?
Bluetooth is new. That came after.
What year was Bluetooth?
Bluetooth is from the Vikings.
It is. We know that now.
Yeah, we learned that. That was fun.
Okay, yes, Bluetooth is later. But what I'm saying is most of the technology, planes, we still haven't reachieved.
Yeah, I understand. It's just iterative. We really have not had massive leaps. We just made this phone smaller, computers smaller.
Think of nuclear power, for example. We've had that forever. And we still haven't implemented that as an actual grid thing overall for the full grid. So I'm just saying we haven't achieved as much as she wants to claim since the 1970s, but whatever.
The achievements that she's citing are the statistics of women being in the sciences and having careers that are not hinged or that are not hampered by family life, which is what I think she's getting at.
Yeah, and I think I agree to a point on this. I think it was great for quite a few women to have that path open to them, but as a society, we are now forcing that on everyone, and that is the only path, and we're heading towards again population collapse. And again, it's the same thing with men. Like we shouldn't have this idea of men always go to college, always go to advanced degrees. They need to go into trades. No. So there's a society. There's lots of things going on. We got Mario 64.
Yeah, okay, Andrew. We got Mario 64 during the pill. Chill, man. Chill.
Yeah.
Anyway. No, I agree with you, Will. Like, the stats are heavily because the assumption now is that women need to go to college.
Yeah. The stats across the board are heavily leaning towards everybody should go to college. Everybody should get advanced degrees.
It's because they're making so much money off that. Mm-hmm. And again, there's no foresight.
This is an entirely different conversation.
No,
it's all tied in.
I have a document.
It's tied in.
No. The document. There's the whole documentaries and stuff that I've watched on how the college LLC, college loan business has taken off, and it's like
okay, but it's okay, Chris. It's related only because she's claiming this is because of the pill allowing it.
I see what you're saying.
And then let's just go ahead.
That's not the reason why these women are going to college now. The pill now almost makes it feel like they're obligated to more than anything.
Yes,
I wouldn't say the pill. I wouldn't say the pill is making these women choose college because that's what they really, really wanted this entire time, but were oppressed. It's now there's this
the pill, you have to go to college.
Yeah, you're obligated now to go because there's you're not expected to get married. You have to provide for yourself until you find your husband eventually, or even then, because of all of the inflation, you need 2 income households. So
which I mean, the elephant in the room there is that our economy wasn't built to have suddenly 50% more in the workforce.
No, it definitely wasn't. It wasn't ready for that at the time.
No,
which is why you saw salary decreases. Not decreases.
Yeah, because they're expecting you to have a 2-income household instead of one person earning the same amount of money.
And I found something really. One of her takes, I guess, comments really interesting was women are not motivated by male standards in the same way as the reverse.
Yeah, men are very motivated by what a woman wants or expects, and it makes men better people.
Yeah, so women don't.
And that's a far-reaching impact.
Like literally, women don't give, according to the study, women don't give a crap what male standards are.
So
at all.
I guess what is that? What do you? I forget this part. What does she mean by male standards? Like beauty
like
standards?
Your expectations for certain
if
things.
if a woman expects you to be the provider and expects certain things from you, you're more likely to meet those goals as a man.
Yeah. You need to have this income or whatever. Men are going to seek to achieve that.
So it makes men higher achievers. And that's not to take away the responsibility of a man to just do that on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But as a society, when a woman expects the man to be a provider, and she covers this in the book, then a man is more likely to meet those goals.
That's because it's part of our biology. That's how we're built. That's what we want to do.
So when you take that away, it actually adds to men's depression.
Which they're also claiming is, I mean, she's trying to claim that that's
men are more likely. So I found a study. Men are more likely to be depressed if their partner, their woman, is on the pill.
Yeah.
That's funny. So much for me. No, just
kidding. The thing she's trying to say though is she's trying to say that because of women, like women are no longer viewing men the same way with the standards. Men aren't going to college as much because of that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think it has a lot more to do with like the girl empowerment, like putting men down at the same time kind of propaganda that has been more problematic in that. But
we need to have another book to cover that. There's a lot to go in there.
I think that's like a much wider thing. This is the thing we were going to discuss earlier about the unintended consequences. Is
this a long point or a short point?
This one was short. This was about cancer.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because we said we would table it. She goes into how on page 220, she goes in about how the pill is like doing all of these things to stop a pregnancy. And she goes through all the criteria that a pregnancy meets the criteria of a parasite, of cancer because of its rapid cell growth. Mm-hmm. And I think there was one other thing. I forget what it was. But she goes through these 3 criteria of parasites, cancer, and something else that the pill is actively working. like your body works against that normally. So now this pill is suppressing that response.
Good.
And that goes into the question of how does it impact stuff like parasites and cancer if your immune system is now suppressed and not actively fighting those things.
I mean, it does bring up a good point with parasites specifically. It's like some of those like weird ones that are starting to pop back up in like the more like Florida and those kinds of areas. That why are we suddenly more susceptible to these? They've been there since we've been here, and no one was getting them, but now suddenly we're getting them. And you know what? Now I think about it, it's always women actually getting.
Yeah,
I need to look into this.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying she goes through this thing of all these really bad things that the pill is suppressing your immune response to.
Yep.
And why is it that? Because okay, to explain this to the viewer, it's because of the increased levels of progesterone. It makes your body think it's pregnant, which means it's allowing the parasitic type behavior and the rapid cell growth associated with the embryo. And that would dramatically impact your immune response to something like a cancer or a parasite at the same exact time.
Oh, yeah.
And she does not draw that into this conversation. And it blows my mind that she does not even talk about that risk.
So the last thing I want to do, since we're pretty much done here, we've talked about everything I can think of. Maybe what we can do is give a little quick summary and our rating.
Our takeaways too.
Yes. Just we've already done a lot of takeaways. Give a brief
summary takeaway.
So I think for me, I'm giving this book a 5. Okay. I think this is a must read for any woman considering taking the pill.
It's a must read for
and their partner.
Yeah, any parent even.
This is a version of informed consent that you're not getting from your doctor. And I think that this is a must read for anybody considering it, especially if you're considering it for even for your own kids. You know what I mean? If you were considering this before, I think parents need to read this. If you're considering it, I think women need to read this. I think men should read this. I cannot recommend this enough.
They're dating at all, because
I'm giving it a 5. Andrew, you can jump in with your information when it's your rating. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just saying, I give it a 5 too. It's like you said, everybody should read this. Honestly, everybody should read it. Specifically when you're a parent, if you have a teenage daughter that's going to be pressured to go on the pill,
they will be by a doctor most likely.
Yeah.
Or their friends. Everyone, I'll get into my point in a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
If you're a young man trying to date people, because this is 100% going to potentially completely upend your life in the future. It's very, very detrimental. I mean, even any woman who's looking to go on the pill should take and read this because of all of the impacts and realize that each and every one of those pills is different and could impact you extremely terribly. And if you happen to still be physically developing, whatever age bracket that's from, you're going to be influenced going forward by this permanently. It is no different than, it's just less drastic than puberty blockers. It is a hormone therapy, and that's how it should be viewed, in my humble opinion, is as a hormone therapy.
That's what it is.
But it's not talked about as a hormone therapy and how it impacts the overall body. It's literally just called contraception, birth control.
But you have to use a euphemism so people don't get all upset.
5 out of 5.
Yeah, I would say 5 out of 5 as well. Same thing, echoing what these guys already said. Everyone should read it, especially if you're considering this, you're already on it. I think that moving forward, actually, no, I don't want to get into litigation on laws and stuff. Okay, so 5 out of 5.
And you're going to look into the cancer and parasite thing.
Yes, yes, I will. That will be my homework for next time.
But if you guys want to know more, the book again is called "This Is Your Brain on Birth Control" by Sarah E. Hill, PhD. She's doctorate in psychology, I believe, and which is why she's talking about the brain. But definitely go read it. I can't recommend it enough. I think that it's an interesting read, even if you have no impact from the pill in your life. I think it's still an interesting read because it affects it affects around 40 to 50% of society. So, all right. Next, Printed and Press, we're going to be covering a bunch of indie books by somebody named J.D. Sanderson. Books. He's got 2 books in the Footstep Echo series, duology, whatever you want to call it. And look forward to that. So, sci-fi. And with that being said, make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, follow us on Twitter, whatever, at Krillcast, at Printed and Pressed. Oh my God, wrong tag. Sorry, guys. Either one, both of them, whatever. But as always, I'm Chris.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Will.
And we'll see you
on the next podcast.
Whichever one it is.
Mm-hmm.